Hello, the technique coming to you from the BA Martial Artist this month is all about focus groups. And in this segment, you will learn what a focus group is, why they are beneficial, and how to effectively execute them. So what is this thing called the focus group? The name itself gives you a clue, but I want to share with you the definition from the Project Management Book of Knowledge, the PMBOK, and the Business Analysis Book of Knowledge, the BA-BOK. Now, according to the PMBOK, a focus group brings together pre-qualified stakeholders and subject matter experts, SMEs, to learn about their expectations and attitudes about a proposed product, service, or result. And according to the BA-BOK, a focus group is a means to elicit ideas and opinions about a specific product, service, or opportunity in an interactive group environment. So essentially, a focus group is a way to understand expectations, ideas, and options about a specific product in an interactive group environment with stakeholders. Now you can conduct focus groups before you deploy a product or even after the product has been deployed to gain insights. It is important that during these focus groups you are actively listening and asking the right questions to ensure you are clearly understanding the needs and expectations. In addition, there are things you can do to ensure you keep the group focused on the goal at hand that we will be discussing later in this video. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about why focus groups are beneficial. Now, focus groups are beneficial because 1, they provide a platform for all voices to be heard. 2, they bring clarity on stakeholder and SME expectations, needs, and options. And 3, they provide a controlled focus environment to gain understanding and clarity. Now, these groups do not have to be large, and in most cases, less is more. What I have found is that you need to ensure you have the right people in the room at the right time. Some individuals will not open up with feedback if their manager is in the room for fear of what they say being held against them. So be intentional in how you organize these sessions and who you have in the room with each other. Which is really a great segue into the execution of the focus group. The tips I am about to share with you are the tips I have found to be the most successful, not only for me, but for others who I have observed run successful focus groups. Number 1. The first step is to identify the topic of discussion and the desired outcome. I can't stress this enough. It is really important to understand and articulate to all involved the topic, the purpose of the topic, and the desired outcome as a result of the focus group session. This will not only help you stay focused, but help all involved to stay focused on the goal at hand. So let me go a little bit deeper on what I mean by desired outcome. Let's say, for example, you work for an organization that would like to be more efficient in how they deliver their products and services to their customers. So you've been tapped on the shoulder to understand the different processes in the organization and have been asked to find improvement opportunities, meaning you are looking at improving different business processes to make them more efficient and eliminate wasteful steps. And as you have been conducting this work, you have found that the modified mortgage loan process has a lot of opportunity for improvement. And you have also found that this particular process in its current state is posing a lot of risk to the organization from an operational, reputational, and financial perspective. However, you want to gain insights from other stakeholders and SMEs to determine if they identify with what you have uncovered so far and what other improvement opportunities may exist. So you decide to leverage the focus group as a way to gather these insights, as you can control who you have in the room to get that candid and honest feedback. So now that you have the topic, you now have to think about what is the desired outcome you want out of this meeting. You don't want the meeting to just be a gripe session, which can easily happen if you don't facilitate this right. But the desired outcome you determine is twofold. 1, to confirm that what you have encountered as improvement opportunities is accurate, and 2, identify any additional improvement opportunities you may not have captured from those who are closest to the process to mitigate risk to the organization, provide a more efficient process to the internal stakeholders in the organization, and provide the optimal customer experience desired. So as you conduct this focus group session, you want to stay focused on these two desired outcomes to ensure you get what you need out of the session and the session is as productive as possible. So now let's move over to the next step, which is stakeholder identification. As stated before, you want to make sure you have the right people in the focus group that interact with the process. This would be your SMEs that actually perform the process, individuals who interact with the process, such as your downstream and upstream partners, and your customers who receive the service. You want to make sure you understand how all of these individuals relate and work with each other, because as you stated before, you may need to have individuals in different focus groups in order to get that authentic and candid feedback. Now, once you have identified your stakeholders, I recommend that you reach out to them prior to putting the focus group meeting on the calendar, if at all possible. This is a great way to build relationships, adds a personal touch, and can aid in the execution of the meeting. In addition, with just the reach out, you may get some insights on others who you may need to engage or invite to the focus group that you were not aware of. It's better to find that out prior to the meeting than have to schedule yet another meeting. Now, once you send the focus group invitation, make sure within the invitation you introduce or reintroduce yourself in your role. You explain why you are having a focus group meeting, so if the meeting is weeks out, when it does pop up on people's calendar, it sparks your remembrance for all involved. You explain what is the topic of the meeting and what is the desired outcome or outcomes of the focus group. If you have a finalized agenda, make sure to include that in the meeting invite. If not, advise a formal agenda will be coming prior to the meeting, as well as any other meeting materials. The formalized agenda and materials should be sent whether the meeting is in person or virtually. And yes, you can do focus group meetings successfully virtually. There are some things you should consider, which we will discuss later on. As we talk about the agenda, let's discuss meetings and meeting materials in general. Now, you want to make sure when you are preparing for the meeting, you have the materials ready that you will be sharing with the stakeholders. If you would like the stakeholders to review the information prior to the focus group, make sure to send it out in enough time that they can review it. Meaning, don't send the document 1 hour before the focus group. Consider when you are scheduling the focus group session how much time the stakeholders will need to review the information, if applicable or necessary. Now, I had mentioned this before, you should have a formalized agenda. The agenda level sets the meeting, set expectations for the meeting, and is a great way when stakeholders go off on tangents to reel them back in based on the topics on the agenda. So let's discuss a little bit what should be included in the agenda. Number 1, you want to include the name of the meeting. 2, the date, time, and location of the meeting. 3, the purpose of the meeting. 4, the desired outcome. 5, the list of attendees. 6, the materials included for the meeting if they should be reviewed prior to the meeting. 7, the topics that will be discussed in the meeting. 8, a section for next steps. 9, a section for action items and decisions. And 10, a section for parking lot items. Now, I would like to stop here and take a moment to discuss why I recommend a section for next steps, action items, decisions, and parking lot items. Now, the next steps will outline what comes next based on the information obtained in the focus group. Your action items will outline specific to-dos that were assigned to individuals during the focus group. Make sure to have due dates and accountability assigned to every single action item. Don't leave the action items generic in description or with no due date. This will make it harder for action items to get done, as individuals will lose sight of them and they don't have clear accountability. Now, the decision section allows you to outline the decisions that were made during the meeting and who made them. This is important from a historical perspective and can bring back remembrance on why certain strategies or paths were taken, especially in those instances where individuals have what I call convenient amnesia. Make sure to capture the decision as detailed as possible, who made the decision, and the date the decision was made, which would be the date of your focus group. Now, the parking lot section is reserved for those items that need more discussion. Sometimes other items come up while you are discussing a topic. However, that particular topic may not align to the desired outcome of the focus group. Therefore, you want a place to put those items so that attendees' voices are heard and they know what they brought up will be addressed at some point, if not directly in the focus group. Okay, now that we've talked about the materials and agenda, let's discuss the actual execution of the focus group. Let's first start with the day prior to the focus group. Make sure you have all the materials organized and put in a place you can easily access them. If you are conducting the meeting virtually, make sure to consider these things. Number 1, ensure the platform being utilized is set up and working as intended. Make sure you know all the different features you will be using and how to easily get to them, and advise others on how to engage using those features if applicable as well. Number 2, I recommend you do a dry run with someone to ensure your audio and visuals are working as intended. Number 3, make sure any materials you are sharing are easily accessible on your device. Number 4, make sure you are comfortable navigating between different documents and applications if need be. Number 5, ensure you are in a location to conduct the focus group session with no distractions or background noise. Number 6, prepare to be 10 minutes early to the meeting so you are settled and ready to go when others join. There's typically at least one person who joins the call early. Number 7, identify a backup plan if the technology doesn't work as intended prior or during the meeting. Now, if you are conducting the focus group in person, ensure you have everything ready and accessible to you as well. Make sure the room is ready to accommodate the stakeholders and SMEs, and make sure all materials are printed or instructions have been given to the participants on what they should bring to the meeting. Ensure everything in the room is working as intended and that you have a backup plan as well if anything in the room is not working. Whether in person or virtually, arrive to the meeting at least 10 minutes before the meeting to get settled. I can't stress that enough. I recommend that when you schedule the focus group in person, you schedule the room 15 to 30 minutes early on both sides of the start and end date of the meeting. This allows you time to set up prior to the meeting and extra time on the back end in case the meeting runs a little over. This will ensure you are not interrupted due to another meeting coming into the room. Now, when stakeholders start to arrive to the meeting, greet them. If virtual, you can engage them by asking a question they can respond to in the chat component of the technology platform you are using. If in person, you can add an icebreaker to your agenda to set a nice tone for the meeting. The icebreaker will depend on how many people are in the meeting and how much time you want to dedicate to that portion of the agenda. I also highly recommend that before you do an icebreaker, you do set the stage with working agreements. Though the working agreements are similar to ground rules, where you set boundaries for the meeting, but I prefer to use the phrase working agreements, and you will know why here in a minute. I like that phrase. I typically start this off with a couple of agreements that I have come up with, and then I have attendees add theirs. So let me give you a couple of examples of what working agreements are. For an in-person meeting, you might have an agreement that says, we agree that cell phones will be silenced or put on vibrate to minimize distractions. For a virtual meeting, you may have an agreement that states, we agree to not multitask and focus on the topic and desired outcome of this focus group to ensure a productive meeting. You would then ask the attendees what would they like to add to the working agreements. The attendees are now vested in the rules as they help to create them. Therefore, they have an accountability to follow them. Now, once you complete the working agreements and you have chosen to do an icebreaker, now would be a great time for that. Make sure the icebreaker doesn't take up too much time. And also remember, this is just to break the ice and to set the tone. So make sure the icebreaker is appropriate for the environment in which you are working. Now it's time to go over the agenda so everyone is on the same page once again about the purpose of the focus group, the desired outcome, the topics that will be discussed, the materials that will be leveraged, and how the materials will flow as far as capturing information, how the meeting will flow as far as capturing information. If you are lucky enough to have someone else take notes or scribe for you, that would be ideal because you can really focus on facilitating the focus group and actively listening and engaging with your stakeholders. Now that the logistics are out of the way, it's time to facilitate the focus group by following your agenda and feeling and watching the energy in the room. Make sure all voices are heard through collaboration and active listening. And as you are conducting the meeting through sharing of information and asking questions, make sure to do pulse checks along the way to ensure everyone is tracking with the meeting and clear of what is transpiring. Take a moment to pause and ask for questions or commentary throughout. And in addition, if an attendee has not offered any feedback, you may want to ask them for their thoughts to engage them. Not everyone feels comfortable sharing, and sometimes they need a little help with that. Remember to do more listening than talking, though, when you get to the heart of the meeting, because you are there to glean information and understanding. Make sure to leave the last 5 minutes for wrap-up and to articulate next steps and action items to ensure all items were captured and everyone's on the same page. Thank everyone for their time and adjourn the meeting. Make sure to send out any notes or materials you committed to sending during the meeting. Now, once you are back at your desk, ensure you store the information somewhere securely and all action items and next steps are placed somewhere for follow-up and follow-through. It's also a good practice to conduct a retrospective on the focus group session. Think through what went well and what can be improved. Take time to reflect on how the meeting went to improve future focus group sessions. We are always learning and evolving. So as you can see, a focus group is an amazing way to gather insights. You can do them prior to, during, and or after projects or initiatives. They do not have to be intimidating. It just takes some time, planning, preparation, and organization. The more you do them, the more comfortable you will get with them. So now go forth and conquer.